Thanks for joining this session. I'm Alex Cagnoni, Director of Authentication for WatchGuard, and today we will see how cloud or web single sign-on can help companies improve security and productivity, as well as become a powerful selling tool. In this training, you will hopefully learn about the main password issues every company faces. You will understand how AuthPoint Web single sign-on feature can increase user adoption while increasing their security and reducing issues with password resets. Finally, you will learn how you can maximize your AuthPoint sales with web single sign-on. If you look at most of users' everyday lives, first thing when they start the day is usually logging into their computer. After they do that, they might check the sales information on a CRM product, maybe share a file with a customer or business partner, possibly connect to a webmail solution, join a few web conferences after the pandemic, maybe book a business trip. At the same time, they're home or go home and access their social media, watch movies on streaming services, buy things online, pay bill using online banking, and much more. A user's password is everywhere. And let's face it, we're putting a lot of pressure on the user. A research from Statista a couple of years ago showed that most respondents of the survey admitted to be using the same password across multiple accounts. Now think about how many online accounts you have, even for stores you registered only once. More than 100 for sure. This is why most users will try to use the same password everywhere. Maybe some variations, but not more than a few passwords. This is a stat that comes every year on Verizon Report. More than 80% of the attacks we use stolen and weak passwords. And by stolen, I'm not talking about phishing attacks only, but also those who end up in the dark web. And finally, a survey made before the pandemic showed that about 92% of companies allow remote workers. After the pandemic, unless it requires physical presence, I can't imagine most companies not working at least with a hybrid model. So secure access to corporate applications is critical. Authentication is the first step. And it can be really messy for the users. Most password policies will ask the user to change their password every X days or months. So they really need to create a new password and remember this new password. 1 on every 99 emails is a phishing attack if they are not properly being filtered. It's really hard for the user to detect and make the right decision with so many emails like that. There are several Trojans like keyloggers and mimikatz that can steal passwords, even the most complex ones. And sometimes it is not really the user's fault. Passwords are sometimes exposed because of breaches involving companies the users have an account with. As you can see, it's not easy. It's a lot of pressure over the users and how it could impact your customer. This is what we're going to see. We saw that most users will try to use the same password across all applications, since nobody would be able to remember dozens of passwords. And they'll do that, maybe with small variations here and there, depending on the password quality policy for each application. A capital letter here, a special character there, so a few variations might happen. But the problem is that once they go back to that specific application they might not have been using for a while, the guess could be wrong. In that case, even a small difference will prevent them to authenticate. Passwords are case sensitive, so account can end up locked. Now you need to call someone to make a password reset, reducing productivity and taking IT's time. Companies will also take a big hit on that. Users might be using their important network passwords for their streaming account. Why not, since they had to create a very good one just to fulfill the company's password quality policy. And now a credential with access to the company, it's also on a streaming service. It could get even worse. Maybe your employee shared the credentials with that poor cousin, so he could also have some fun. And why stop there? The employee will be probably using it for other accounts, like social media. The password giving access to the company's valuable resources are not now spread out on different services. A breach involving a well-known company might not seem to affect your company. A user's database, including credentials, might end up in the dark web for anybody to grab. But what happens if your employees have used that service with their corporate email and the same password as used for company access? That's the main challenge and risk for the company. Stolen credentials are most of the time not used to access the user's account within that service. They're used to try and log into other more valuable resources, like your company, and then install a ransomware, more profitable than some free vacations. We looked at some threats. Now let's see some facts when you're building your authentication strategy. As we saw, passwords are really not secure. It can also take time and resources to manage and can be exposed by the user. Adding MFA is not an option, it's a requirement. It will drastically reduce exposure, mitigate risk related to attacks using credentials stolen by any type of method. Obviously, it adds some friction for the user. You had one FA, now you have 2FA, or even MFA. In terms of adoption, it really requires clear communication. Make sure users understand that what is going on, why the company is doing that, and what are the benefits. It's almost a sale. Users have to buy that idea. And we will give you some good facts that will help you with that sale. First of all, some companies have a really hard time implementing MFA for different reasons. Users might create objections depending on how you do it. You may hear one or more of those complaints or objections, and sometimes they are right. If you give them a hardware device to carry, and then have them press a button, put a finger, connect to a computer, and so forth, it could easily become a hassle. And some solutions are really doing that. Sometimes you have to do something to connect to your computer USB port, but there's no way to use it within your mobile phone. Therefore, it limits the way people work today. That is really important when choosing and implementing an MFA solution. You need to give the real balance. You are adding something, make sure your users are getting out with something as well. And that's where I wanted to get. Think a little bit like your user, with multiple passwords, some small differences, having to memorize them. Show your users how their life is today, and then take them to the new world. Present them with a technology that will protect them and reduce the number of passwords to create, manage, and remember. Present them with a scenario where they log in once to a portal using their ID password and an additional factor. Could be a hardware token, but to demonstrate better usability, a mobile app with push-based authentication. Once authenticated, all other applications are accessed without the need to re-authenticate. Single sign-on to every application. The user might ask, what about my CRM password and my email, my webmail? Gone, all gone, never worry again. All you need to keep with you and remember is your ID password. That's the beauty of web single sign-on. Authenticate once in a secure way and get access to all cloud applications. And that's the great advantage, the biggest sales point. Instead of having 12, 13 credentials like in this example to create, memorize, manage, and reset, now there's only one, the AD password, and a quick press on the AuthPoint app approve button when you receive a push. For the IT admins, even better, no more password resets for all those cloud applications. That will drastically reduce the overhead with password resets in terms of time, productivity loss, and obviously money. And that's how you sell the value to your users. We're giving you something, but something that will allow you to protect yourself, something that is really easy with very low friction, which means meets the demands related to remote work. And you're getting a much better experience, mitigating the issues related to credentials theft or resets. Just one authentication using MFA to get access to all cloud applications. Protection against unauthorized access from attackers, even if they got your valid credentials from the dark web. And more, you can use your AuthPoint app to protect dozens of personal accounts that supports time-based OTPs. The effects of the global pandemic have not only accelerated the need to enable MFA, but it has also made us think of smarter ways to authenticate. Offering single sign-on to your customers can be an effective way to sell the importance of protecting employee logons, because you'll be addressing a problem everyone is facing today: how to protect identities and assets when everyone is accessing them from anywhere at any time. Plus, how to do this in a way that doesn't interfere with user experience. This is why 2020 was called the Year of Authentication, and that doesn't stop. MFA is a requirement, not an option. And especially with the pandemic, lockdowns, and people working from home, the VPN growth exploded. Remote access and VPN became the first area companies were looking like crazy to protect. We saw Firebox upgrades everywhere, and AuthPoint being implemented really fast. Being cloud-based, it made it easier. But then you have your cloud applications. In fact, most companies are moving on to their on-premise applications to the cloud, so users can access easily from anywhere. And again, web single sign-on is how you will really get users' acceptance. That's where they will see and feel they are getting value beyond security. And once you reach their email services, that's when you cover most of the company's numbers. You protect your customers' applications, assets, and you really expand your business. Now, some key takeaways for you. Passwords are not easy. Let's put our user hat and admit it's really hard to manage passwords. And we're just humans. If we need passwords, we will do whatever we can to avoid losing access to server and applications, even if that means creating a file with credentials, writing them down, or simply repeating passwords everywhere. One thing you can't do is control how your employees will use passwords outside the company. Security awareness trainings are important as prevention measures, but there's no guarantee they won't do it. Because of working from home, which should continue for many companies even after the pandemic, remote access and VPN is a top priority. And it's a no-brainer. Everyone needs it, and it's usually how it gets started. AuthPoint Web Single Sign-On solution is one of the best ways to increase security and get users' acceptance by reducing the number of credentials they need to manage. But it's also a great business opportunity, especially if you take applications like email that are usually used by almost 100% of the employees. Thanks for watching this. Until next time.